Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR to sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boost. Okay. Adventures going on in the background of the bar. We are live from the bar tonight, just so you know. I guess it's today.
Allie's back on the show and has to be a mom 4 seconds in.
Immediately.
But not for us, though.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with us this time.
All right, I know. A lot of people don't care, but we got to talk about it. Pick of the week, Bengals.
I think a lot of people do care. I think an insane amount of people care.
Really?
About
I think this
Super Bowl?
I think it's going to be like one of the least watched Super Bowls in a long time, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like the least watched Super Bowl and the most watched.
Villain.
Yeah.
It's easy to root against Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes
True.
every year, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like,
Yeah, no one's hate watching this year.
that guy. No, the people who are tuning into this one are like, all right, should be cool.
Yep.
Like the entire city of St. Louis, I guess, will hate watch it. But outside
Oh,
of
that's
that,
true. That's true. I forgot about that.
But there's just not that many of them. They don't.
Most watched event of the year.
Well,
yeah, but it'll be compared to
But
other
compared to
Super
other
Bowls.
Super Bowls.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like least watched Super Bowl, most watched Dancing with the Stars. You know what I mean? Like
They're still dunking.
About your show, but
Oh wow. I need the pick though. You want the Bengals? You want the Rams? So
I'm taking the Bengals. I think you very rarely see a Cinderella story kind of like end
with the
with
win
with the glass slipper actually fitting. The last time I can really remember that in sports is probably the Kings in what was that 2011 or 2012?
2010
when they
was the
first
real
won.
dream run.
Was it 2010 Blackhawks?
Maybe.
2011.
The first one, yeah.
2011 LA Kings was the last time I can really remember being like
the 8th seed Kings.
yeah.
Time
yeah.
is a myth.
So especially after the last 2 years. So I'd like to see Cincinnati. That's my pick. Joe Burrow's been dope as hell this whole playoffs.
All right. I like the answer. In chat here, Brendan's saying he's got a root for the Rams for Vaughn. I imagine a good amount of Denver will be rooting for Von Miller. So
Yeah.
a good answer there, too. Either way, whichever team you want, make it your pick of the week over at DraftKings Sportsbook. You can go over there with a new account, get 56-1 odds, picking on whichever team you want to win the Super Bowl. And right now, you can sign up for your chance to win an opportunity to make a free $1 million bet on the Super Bowl. I would like $1 million. I don't know about you, chat, but
It's going to be all Cam Akers all day.
easy money.
Yeah.
All right. You heard it here first. Bet it all on Cam Akers. Put $1 million
Heard it here
in.
first, the Friday before the Super Bowl.
No one has had this bet yet.
Not a single person has gotten to that take yet.
Either way, head on over to DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that DNVR code. You can download the Sportsbook app now. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. Of course, see DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. They are an official sports betting partner of the Super Bowl. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Okay, let's get into the show today. It's finally time. I know you all have been waiting for our trade deadline wish lists for a little bit now. So we're going to get into it. We're going to break down our conglomerated top 10.
Good word.
Is it a word? I'm just hoping it's a word, to be honest with you.
If it's not, I love that you made one up. I think it's great.
We're flying by the seat of our pants here. Before we actually get into the list, though, there's a couple of guys that didn't make the list that I know we wanted to get in some honorable mentions on. I had Justin Braun. I like him as a defensive option, as if the Avs don't make a big move. Could be something they look into. We'll talk probably more about that a little bit later on some other guys.
List so I can remember who our honorable mentions were.
Jesse had Jake DeBrusk, who I think just missed the actual list.
Yeah,
Someone we've
he was
talked
one
about
of the last
before.
omissions that we had.
Yep. So
Yeah. Do you want to get into a couple of these guys or?
I mean, you can give us a quick blurb. I think probably.
Oh well, no. I that's a guy that obviously, the situation with Boston was very well noted. We did an entire show on Jake DeBrusk earlier this season.
Like half my list didn't even make this thing.
Half of all of our lists didn't make it. That's how it works.
Combined 3 lists into one.
No, almost all of your list did.
Really?
Wow.
That's just because I picked the right ones.
Yeah, 8 of your 10 guys are on this
That's
list.
because I picked guys from your list and guys from your list.
Yeah, he put his list in first. Don't listen to this. This is all lies.
You guys picked from my list
Yeah,
then.
that's what I was
gonna
So
say.
I am the front runner.
This is like when you do a fantasy draft and you just pick based off of the auto rankings because you didn't do them yourself.
Well, I don't know who to put here. What Rudo put?
Yeah,
All right,
well, and
this
they're
is
like,
fine.
oh, okay, well, ESPN has him as a projected 35 goal scorer year. That sounds great.
Well, so are we just want to jump straight into the guys that are on our honorable mentions?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I mean, we can. I mean, so you mentioned
Breeze
Jake
through 'em.
DeBrusk.
Jake DeBrusk.
and-
It's very well documented. I think that's a guy who you're buying on the hopeful upside. That again, I don't think that's going to be a main target, but as maybe a couple guys get moved or there's prices that are just a little bit too high, I think that's a nice kind of secondary
Yeah.
market guy.
A lot of these honorable mentions are like secondary
Right.
potential options for the Avs, I think.
Yeah, I've got. I had Arturi Lehkonen,
Yeah.
Lawson Krause, basically filling the same role like your depth guys here.
Yep.
In another guy that I had Paul Stastny as well on my
Yeah,
wish
and
list.
that's one that I do think is really interesting.
we can talk about him
Yeah,
a little
I'll
bit
say
more.
I'd like to pause there for a second.
It's look, obviously the connections to Colorado are apparent there. We know even after he left, the Avs have been interested in bringing him back for a little while, which something never to discount for the Avs, as we've talked about a little bit over the last couple of days. But Stas, where does he fit on the Avs?
Well, I mean, there's the versatility there where, he's been playing a lot of left wing in Winnipeg. But you can also put him down the middle. It kind of depends on who's healthy.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it is that he could fill the left wing. If he could be Newhook's left wing. If Newhook moves up, he could be your 3C and Nichushkin is his left wing. Like they're different lineup combinations that he would make a lot of sense. He's not the player that he was. Of course, he's a little diminished. You're not really talking about putting him in to a top 6, but you take a JT Compher off of a second power play and you put a Stastny in that spot. Again, you're talking about min-maxing here.
Yeah.
You're talking about getting just a little bit better in a spot here or there, moving a guy down and improving multiple spots along the way because of it. So, and but price wise, not going to be overly expensive. I don't think so. Was not high on my list. Was near the bottom of my list, and was just one of those guys that we kind of omitted just through just putting our lists together. It just kind of worked out that way. So,
But again, it's a guy that probably costs you a little bit less in terms of assets.
Yeah,
the money's a little bit
definitely.
easier to fit.
yeah. You're not talking about trying to jam in a $6 million salary and figure it out at that point.
Yeah, Ali, by the way, you were saying this isn't real snow. They can see it on the broadcast.
But when you look at it, it's not even like really sticking.
Come
Yeah,
over
it is.
here.
I was going to say.
Yeah,
It's
come over
snowing
here
pretty
and-
good when you look from over here.
It's not on the street.
Hey, you said it wasn't sticking. You didn't specify that at first. So
Anyway, it does look cool as like the background of the pod. I
Yeah,
think.
I like it. I actually
it
like it.
does look upsetting. You're right.
Anyway,
It's
Stastny.
way better than that night I showed up for your guys' post game pod, and your leg wouldn't stop bouncing, and it was driving me crazy. And then you had all the police in the background.
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
show.
Yeah.
I looked at my phone. I looked at Rudo. I was like, it's AJ. I just saw him comment. He knows we're doing this.
Yeah.
I got like concerned. I was like, oh my God, he's dying. And he just
Yeah.
grabbed his phone. And my
911,
number was the
911.
first one there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you'd be like 4th or 5th on my emergency
Well,
contact list.
That's pretty high.
I know.
I was going to say,
didn't-
I was going to be offended, but then I was like, well,
4th or 5th, not
Yeah,
bad.
I'm hoping for like 10th.
crack the top 5.
Yeah, I don't know where you'd be on that one.
Do
We
not
don't-
call list,
we don't-
probably.
Do not call.
We don't communicate. What?
Where would I?
He'd be too afraid to call you. You'd get in trouble.
Yeah, you
And
yell
how
at him.
did you hurt yourself, AJ?
Don't die.
Yeah.
Why are you calling me?
Yeah, true. Nah, I don't know what that list would look like right now. It's that one also kind of
You know what?
depends.
We'll do the trade deadline wish list next week.
Yeah.
Let's
This
talk
week
about
we're going to
AJ's
carve out
call
AJ's
list.
emergency contact list.
Anyway.
Anyway, yeah, Paul Stastny, obviously some good storylines there to talk about for the Avs. Winnipeg, they're not out of it yet, but it's not been a big year for them in any
Yeah,
stretch.
there'll be a couple of teams that we talk about where it's like, These dudes are selling.
Yeah.
And then there will be a couple of teams where it's like, we're doing this 5 weeks out. Like,
Yeah. We'll see.
We'll see. That's why we wanted to start with a wish list.
And
as this evolves, this is where we're starting with these are the guys that we like.
Well, and that is one thing I do want to point out is, this is our wish list where it's like, hey, if everything fell into place just perfect, we think these are guys that would be really cool and that would add a lot. We're not necessarily saying these are all guys that they're in on, all guys that are overly likely, but these are guys that we think make for a good fit. And to your point, we've talked about it a bunch. Joe Sakic did say last night in his media availability, look, we're still 5 weeks out. What we need today may not be what we need in 5 weeks.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen injury-wise.
Right.
Everything Bowen Byram related changes all of this conversation. And the Byram thing is a big asterisk on this whole list because if you know for sure, hey, Byram is back, it changes some of these priorities.
D becomes a lot less important.
Well, and like John Klingberg goes way down on my list if that's the case.
Yep.
So
and
things like that.
And he mentioned, he's like, Joe Sakic said, we are hoping that we get Byram back for this year. The communication we're having, we are hopeful. We're giving him the space he needs. We're giving him the time that he's looking for. And we are hoping that that ultimately leads to him coming back. So they're playing with some live ammo a little bit because you're not really sure what's going to be overly relevant when.
Definitely.
So that is definitely something to keep in mind.
Definitely a good take. Yahir's not on the show today, so we forgot to put up the Avs are not trading for Math.
That is one thing. Peter Baugh last night from The Athletic, we were sitting next to each other before the Joe Sakic thing, and he looks at me and he goes, I'm half tempted just to set him up for it, just so he can come out and say, we're not trading for Marc-Andre Fleury. He was like, maybe I'll ask him, like, so, Marc-Andre Fleury's name's been out there a lot with you guys, just so he can say it so people can stop asking about it.
He would say, well, Peter, I don't comment on specific players who play for other teams.
Yeah.
And then he would also say, but anything's possible.
But yeah. But I just thought that was funny because
we're always going to look to improve our team, and we're open to anything.
Right.
All right, Kings.
Oh, yeah, look at these.
Jesse still needs a crown. But
that feels intentional. It's so weird how different size you guys are, yet they both seem to fit your head perfectly.
I've been told I have a small head, so it works out.
Bueller said you need a jest.
Jesus.
Wow.
Grumpy old Scott.
Firing daggers out here.
Well,
okay.
Fuck me, I guess.
So let's actually get into our proper top 10 wish list. Bring up the big board.
Can't help but notice she still hasn't put a crown on me.
All right, we're firing in right away with number 10, Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel is Jesse's baby on this list.
Yeah,
so
this is Jesse's idea. Blame Jesse.
This is
where the jester hat comes in.
This is one that I really do feel that people could end up being disappointed come trade deadline day if everyone's really that down on him. This is just a guy, he's already got a nice chunk of salary being eaten by Toronto. Mm-hmm. Arizona, will be willing to eat half of what they pay.
Nom, 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 nom.
It'll be relatively simple for them to fit him under the cap, and it's a guy they've been tied to now for 2 years. Middle to bottom six guy, plugs in on your PP2. I don't think this is a high target on their list.
5 goals this year.
6 after last night or 2 nights ago.
6. So he's got 6 goals on the year. This is not Phil Kessel.
Right. But I do think
Phil
that
Kessel fame.
That again, he is the one kind of step above DeBrusk, Stasny that we were just talking about, where maybe he's not like the third or the fourth option, but I think he is like a third fallback up front if you're just priced out of some of the other players that we'll be talking about here.
I thought for a second there you're going to say he's the one true Phil. And I was like, interesting. If you haven't been to the temple of the one true Phil, all right, you got to go check it out. That's all I'm saying.
Do you know what he's talking about?
There's a Phil Kessel fan club known as the Temple of the One True Phil.
Oh.
And they're
Is it like those Vin Diesel dudes that all showed
Kind
up
of.
dressed together
Kind of.
and just said family over and over on that video?
their most famous thing is taking his Team USA picture and doing the thing where you keep blowing it up and zooming in on his face until it gets to like a level of terrifying. Yeah.
I don't know if you have to go that far, but no,
Look, when you're a disciple of the Temple of the One True Phil, there is no limit.
I think this is a guy that the Avs could be, not just the Avs, a lot of teams. I think he gets moved this trade deadline regardless. And there's people that'll step back and say he played a role outside of the top 6 in Pittsburgh and had great success in the playoffs on back-to-back cup runs. And I just think that there will be front offices that find value in that. You strike out on a couple guys, you're not wanting to pay first-round picks.
Dude,
I think he's a nice option.
Like Phil Kessel for JT Compher, just straight up.
Yeah.
Done.
Like they get Compher in their middle 6 next year as a guy that maybe they like, who improves the middle of their roster moving forward. Like,
and it gets rid of some of your kind of redundancies in that bottom 6
Well,
for
and
the Avs.
he clears a very obvious role for him,
Right.
To step in and play. And
so yeah.
We talk about like putting some talent next to Alex Newhook,
Right.
on a third line. Phil Kessel's, and I think that's where I would be intrigued.
Right.
We did the watch along with PD of PHNX and said, look, he might hate it, but you just have to play him 12 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And, manage him, because he also said you don't play 800 games in a row by standing in shooting lanes. So
Yeah.
there are obvious drawbacks to Phil Kessel where
For sure.
when you watch him play, he takes the easy way out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's always kind of been the big bugaboo of his career.
Yep.
And he's no longer such an explosive offensive player
Right.
that you can just be like, well, you take what you get with it. Like, it's
Right.
a legitimate drawback here. There's always the magical elixir of he plays on a good team. Now he's going to try hard again.
Right. He's in a
If you ignore his entire career's worth of work,
right.
maybe you can believe that.
Do they need to make this trade to start making the all-sister team? They already have Jesse Compher.
Well, if they do it straight up.
Then it's
Yeah, I was
sister
gonna
for
say, yeah.
sister.
Yeah,
There, that's
they've-
true.
they've
Got to keep
swapped out
Compher for
sisters,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that way, Abby Newhook, Jesse Compher, and Amanda Kessel.
all-
Yeah, can all be on the same team.
Yeah.
No, but again, this isn't a guy. I don't.
Sister Avs are going to rule.
Yeah. They'll be the best pro sister team for sure. But again, I
We
don't
should do
think
that as an off-season thing. We should do a sister draft.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't think this will be one of the first calls they make. But again, if you start seeing a couple of those top guys traded
10th on our list for a reason.
and you're not wanting to give up a ton of assets, this is a guy that I do think, like you said, you can talk yourself into. He gets into that playoff run. That's the perfect type of guy for you. You suddenly get, he matches his regular season production in a playoff run.
Oh, totally.
And it just
Yeah.
It's such a boost for your bottom 6.
Well, and like you throw your second power play unit out there and you kind of just see how it goes, right?
You got him on one of the walls, and he's still a good
you have
shooter.
Burakovsky hanging around. You have Taves and Girard, and
It's an interesting name that I think is cheaper now than it was at the beginning of the season, and that's why he stays at least in the conversation.
Well, and I don't know where they can really ask for a lot. Everybody knows he's going to walk at the end of the year, so you lose a lot of that leverage. And knowing if you're a team that's like, oh, he's going to come in and boost our top 6, chances are you're not going very deep in the playoffs anyway.
Right,
so.
right. Yeah, I agree with what you said a minute ago that you guys were talking about with PD, that, look, if he comes here and Jared Bednar sits him down and is like, hey, most nights, it's 10 to 12.
Yeah.
And just make the most of those 10 to 12.
I would say 12 to 15 roughly as an expectation to get, but know that it's going to be more 12 and that he's not going to play in third period.
Like in a game last night,
where
he
they're
would have taken a
protecting a
shift
lead
or two,
and-
maybe, yeah. But again, an
definitely.
interesting enough name at a cost that I think is very palatable.
Yep. I like the conversation. I do want to move on to number 9 here. I believe I was the only one who had him on my actual list. Jonathan Drouin.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great one.
We had this conversation a little bit the other day.
I did not double check the spelling of Jonathan, so if I did you dirty, I'm so sorry.
I think that's correct, but I
thought it
don't
was
actually
too.
know.
I just
I just
I know you did, and I meant to double check it. And I'm just saying, if somebody's like, "Wow, you guys are idiots," this is all
nailed
me.
it.
We got one.
Wait. Yep, nailed it.
Got him.
In that case, all credit to me.
Yeah.
Allie didn't do shit.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Look, Drouin, obviously the connections with McKinnon have been there for a very, very long time.
Yeah, for sure.
I really don't think it made a ton of sense for Colorado until now.
Yeah, where we talked about it on the Montreal show the other day. Like, look, he's got a year left on his deal at $5.5 million. If they'd be willing to even eat a little bit of that money,
Right.
that'd be great. But the year left, and if you could kind of just pencil him in as like a replacement somewhere on your second line next
winger,
year,
yeah.
you could talk yourself into some good things here.
Well, and there's always going to be that, like,
Connection.
wish
Yeah.
and prayer and hope that maybe he comes here and that chemistry thing with McKinnon is very real. It's not.
If it works, it works.
Right, you know what I mean? But that's something you can always talk yourself into, that they were such an electric pairing at one point.
What frustrated me was that was a lot of the reason for the interest in him
Right.
over the years, and now it's like it doesn't have anything to do with McKinnon.
Right.
Is that it has everything to do with who Drouin is
He's
as a
actually
player,
a
player
great
now.
fit on
and
the
where
second line.
where
yeah.
Colorado kind of where they could use a guy.
Yeah.
Because again, like you could put him on your third line next to Newhook
and have him
Now
just
that's going to have to be a line that you have to shelter a little
For
more
sure.
because of the defensive deficiencies that Duran has had his entire career. But you're also putting him in a position where you're saying, we're not asking you to be the savior.
Yeah.
We're not asking you to lead the team in anything. We're asking you to go out there and just be who you are. And we've seen that at his best in the NHL, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
And the Avs have the opportunity to shelter him. Yeah, maybe you have to move Nuke to the right side or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you run, you can consider options like a Drouin, a Kadri with a Nuke, or drop him to the third line, run some kind of Newhook, Drouin, Nuke, Nichushkin type of lines. Again, a lot like the conversation we were having with Stasny,
Flakes are getting big.
there's room for a lot of versatility when the Avs go out and get one of these talented forwards that, particularly in Drouin's case, you play him with the Kadri because he can feed pucks to these guys. You play him with the Burakovsky because he can feed pucks to the shooters that you want to see put pucks in the net. So,
And then, like I said, in preseason next year, you sat him with McKinnon for a couple games. You're like, is it still there? No? Okay, just what we thought. Perfect.
yep.
But no, this was a name that I didn't have on my list, and he never even crossed my mind when I was putting the list together. So when you had it, I really like this one. I think it's an interesting one.
I think it's pretty impressive that, most of my guys got picked, I guess. But we came together, and for a 10-person list, we had pretty close to 20 guys that we're trying to parse through for potential trade targets.
I like
for
that
the
little
Avs,
self tire pump there. It's pretty impressive.
You gotta get
I mean,
in there.
my
You
whole
gotta get
list
in
My 10 guys
basically,
end up on this list.
is on here, but you guys did okay too.
You got to take your
guys-
dubs.
Thanks
where
for
you can
your
get 'em.
help,
Yeah.
fellows.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'll just take the reins on this next time. You guys just show up.
We'll do my list.
Yeah.
It'll be great. All right.
You guys could just have a separate show.
Yeah.
If you're looking to get a great drink, you need to check out Ranch Riders. I know AJ already agrees with this, but just so we don't have to kick you off the show, Jesse, when you're talking about food and drinks, it's just better when it comes from a food truck, right?
Yeah.
That's where you get the best food. That's where Ranch Riders started, down in a food truck in Texas. They've been working on it for a long time. They have, I had never heard of this before, but they call it ranch water.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was either.
Yeah, it's absolutely delicious. They put in some, you can get tequila or vodka, whichever one you're feeling. With Allie running the show tonight, you know it's going to be tequila. So,
The Palomas are my favorite. They're so good.
there you go.
That woo was a cool mom thing. We got Allie running the show. Woo! Passing out tequila to everyone. If you're going to do it here.
So go get your Ranch Riders. They're one of the 10 fastest selling alcohol companies in
Allie's
the country.
On our, Allie's perception on our show is that she's like 26 going on 45. Like,
Going on 100 with how many birthdays.
Well, I was going to say, and we have to take it easy on her because today is Allie's birthday, so we won't give her too much shit.
big fan that the Broncos chat. Big fan of the Broncos chat.
Also celebrating her birthday.
Wished her a happy
yeah.
birthday today. That was great.
It was good stuff. But go check out Ranch Riders.
Get on to the
Really excited for the Rapids pod to start wishing out.
Yeah, it's gonna be
birthday.
gonna be a fun time. I'm here for it. Also, Sunday, mimosas at the bar for the Avs game, folks.
Yeah, mimosas for the Avs, and then preparing for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast.
We'll be drinking mimosas.
Oh boy, here we go.
On Sunday. I was telling you guys we'll make one on the pregame show. Show you guys how to properly make a mimosa. I'll need a
Are
pint
you gonna
glass.
like measure it out and everything?
Yeah, you can call it measuring.
Champs. Orange juice.
Yep, that's just enough that you get the
to change
tang.
the color.
Yeah, it's just enough to like a light yellow. You drop a mimosa on my table that's orange.
All right, so
I'll
you're
drink
making,
it,
You're
but-
making a pea-colored drink, just so we're clear. Okay.
Cloudy, you look a little dehydrated, but
Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. What is number 8 on our list? I'll
bring a robe on Sunday too if you guys aren't careful. I have a very plush
Don't
black
start.
robe.
There's a whole subsection
Yeah,
of our
that-
list.
Megan and I were talking about it
Desperate for
last night.
robes.
We're working on it.
Producer lady.
Megan and I are working on getting you guys robes. We're having to fight. We're fighting the good fight here.
That's too far. You did too many.
Oh my gosh!
Luke Schenn.
I know you've been, enjoying your birthday, but
I've made the classic mistake, chat, and this is AJ's boy anyway. So I'm gonna let AJ talk about this and go relieve myself.
Next on the list. No, I mean we've talked about Luke Schenn, and I think this is again we're having this conversation about Bowen Byram because if Byram is around, then the appeal of Luke Schenn is a lot higher. If there's no Byram, then my interest in Luke Schenn isn't like Luke Schenn's a little more limited than I would like.
Right.
I just think as a right-handed better version of Jack Johnson.
I was gonna say, so this is more of like your Jack Johnson, not replacement, but
more
insurance.
competition for that spot, and then also between Ryan Murray, Eric Johnson, and Jack Johnson, I just straight up don't trust all three guys to stay healthy for a playoff run.
Yeah.
And so Luke Schenn is a guy that you put into that lineup and push one of those guys off the ice. At this point, it's obviously Ryan Murray.
Yeah.
With no Bowen, with no Bowen Byram, it's obviously Ryan Murray. But like, I know I keep looking at it too. It's done. It's too late, bud. We're screwed. But no, like Luke Schenn, like look, he's not going to do a whole lot for you offensively, but he manages pucks well at this point in his career. He's not quite the grenade launcher he was in the mid portion of his career, and he's comfortable in a depth role on a team pushing for a cup. He understands that job. Defensively, still strong defensively. Still brings an element that they could really use, and is right-handed. So
actually, not even so much of like, because you're saying,
Megan, you're supposed to be on my side.
yeah. What do you mean on your side? She's just trying to be polite.
That's
It's
right.
your birthday. I hate when people don't say happy birthday to me on my birthday. This is more because you're saying if Bo Byram is healthy, you're less interested in him. This is more of like what we want EJ to be.
I'd say Jack Johnson even maybe.
Well, so that was kind of what we were talking about. But again, if you've got Byram, EJ's kind of filling this role that you're talking about. If you don't have Byram, you're asking EJ to elevate a little bit.
yeah,
and
well,
Luke
and
Schenn to
Schenn
be
gives
that.
you another alternative too. When EJ,
Right.
when you do have those nights where EJ is not playing as well, and you can see them, the coaching staff would then have the flexibility to say, all right, let's gear back EJ.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, well, our other option right now is Curtis McDermott or Ryan Murray.
Right.
Which just, with Ryan Murray, when he was playing games, it was getting better. There were things that you were liking. These last two games that he's played, 2 weeks apart, he hadn't been any good in either one of them. So you don't feel good about that in the immediate. But over the next 5 weeks, we'll see. But what's true no matter what is that between Eric Johnson and Ryan Murray, I'm not trusting the health.
You'd like to shore that up a little bit.
If nothing else, you can't be one
You don't
injury away from playing
I want
Curtis
people
McDermott
to
in
knock
the playoffs
this off
on
in our
D.
chat.
What?
That this Byram isn't coming back. You don't know that.
No one has any
Nobody
idea.
knows this, okay? So this is going to continue to be part of the conversation. And this, like, he's not coming back. Okay, what are the lotto numbers that I need to go and buy?
Right, I'll say. I mean, he literally he could come back tomorrow.
Like, it is becoming my pet, just a thing that is driving me crazy. Like the confidence with which
if your name,
we're just predicting the future, just saying shit and pretending that it's real.
If your last name doesn't end with Byram, you have no idea. And there's a good chance, even if your name ends with Byram, you probably don't know when you're going to be back.
Yeah.
So,
anyway.
Yeah. No, but it's a good point, and that again goes back to this 5-week conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I would be willing to bet that if they made, whether it be a big splashy trade or something around the fringes, if they made that move for a forward tomorrow, I wouldn't be that surprised. I think they're going to add on D to some extent, and I think that'll be a deadline day deal because I think they're going to take that to the last possible second.
Yeah, they should
to decide what they're doing in terms of Byram.
We'll see, right? Like. And you can't really plan either way with that because even after the deadline, if he hasn't come back by the deadline, it's not like the deadline. That's his deadline.
Right.
That dude could show up after the last week of April and be like, "Yo, can I get in on this?" And the Avs would absolutely have to say yes.
And while I do expect the Avs to wait, like you're saying, Jesse, any extra defenseman makes you one defenseman further away from playing Curtis McDermott on defense.
Or Jacob McDonald, like
sure,
whoever you
don't
want to get into those guys. And like, if you're picking between Jack Johnson and Luke Schenn or Eric Johnson and Luke Schenn, to which guy is actually going to play in this playoff game, you're in a good position on your bottom pairing.
Right. And
so it's a situation where it's like, this guy can help you. It's a limited ceiling. This is not, it's like Patrick Nemeth, but better. Like he's a better player.
It's what you signed Ryan Murray for. You were hoping Ryan Murray was going to.
It's what you lost when Ryan Graves got traded.
Yeah.
And like reacquiring that.
And you hope that Ryan Murray can be that and or could have been that and you feel bad because that dude's had 1,000 things go wrong in his career, but it just hasn't worked out.
They didn't start going right super quickly here in Denver, so.
It just he never kind of. I remember us talking about it early in the season, preseason stuff like that. Where, man, if you can get a fraction of what Ryan Murray has shown the potential to be and stay healthy, then you're not having this conversation. And Ryan Murray, and we won't talk about it on this show. That's a sneaky candidate that I think could be tossed in on a trade somewhere.
And because money has to go out.
Right.
So like
$2 million.
Darren Helms, Ryan Murray's. Those guys are candidates to be moved as salary fillers somewhere.
Right, because Ryan Murray at $2 million, that's a nice little chunk. And again, we'll get into that in shows later down the road.
If you're trading for, Luke Schenn, who signed for next year at, I think it's like $850K.
Right.
Like, But again, this is also the conversation of they aren't going to. Vancouver's not in a hurry to make that decision.
Right.
Definitely. Fair. I think we're ready to move on to number 7.
Which I already spoiled.
It's Tyler Toffoli, someone we've talked about a decent amount over the last year and a half, honestly.
The last couple of seasons, really, just with how it's kind of
he's always been kind of in the conversation at the very least. The starting point and why I think two reasons you'll see Toffoli a little bit lower on this list. That beer's a little rough, huh?
I'm good. That was just a very high-pitched hiccup.
Yeah.
Better than my coughing fit the other day. So, Toffoli has 2 more years after this one left on his deal.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a weird move to be thinking about at a deadline because it's a little bit longer term.
Yeah. It's a real commitment.
Yeah.
It's not 20 games and then we'll see, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's we're getting this guy. He's going to be part of the conversation for the next couple of years.
And then the other side of this, which we did talk about the other day too, but we'll reiterate here. Dude can't skate.
I mean, it just doesn't fit Colorado's identity of being a higher end skater.
Sure.
I think there's a difference between can't skate and that,
Can't skate to the Avs level. How
identity wise, like he is going to look like he's riding a bike a lot out there versus guys who fly around.
Yeah. So,
but you are talking a guy that, look, at worst, rolls in and plays next to Alex Newhook.
Yep.
At best, rolls in and pushes Nichushkin down to play with Alex Newhook.
Right. And either way, I think you're pretty thrilled with that.
And yeah, you're probably going to get similar production out of him because even strength ice time, I don't think should be vastly different between those two roles. That me believing that Newhook is going to continue to get an expanded role here, just because he's played such solid hockey. But I think that Toffoli just he's just a higher end guy, and then he's insurance that. Look, if Burakovsky, if Nichushkin, all these guys
They go to Slump City or whatever, and for future use.
Yeah, for future use, if Burakovsky and Nichushkin both want $6 million in the offseason,
nope.
You're like, look, we love those guys, but we can't give that money. You can't give $6 million to Val Nichushkin.
Yeah.
$6 million for Burakovsky is probably the upper limit.
It's at least a conversation.
Yeah,
but
you're at least in the neighborhood. But okay, say he wants 7.5.
No.
Where you're just saying, well, absolutely not. The Toffoli just gives you insurance there, where you get a guy that you can put in your top 6 next year.
I think,
and reallocate that money to your goaltending position.
The way I looked at Toffoli, and actually, this is someone we can talk about that we didn't have on any of our lists too. If you're looking at Jonas Donskoy as a potential option, I think you should be looking at Tyler Toffoli.
Thought it was interesting, not on any of our lists.
He was one of my
just missed it
down near the bottom where I was like,
my first draft had him on it, and then the more guys that I started going through, the more I was like, just kept knocking him down.
That was my thing where I was just like, we've seen him here, we know what it is. It's not that it's bad. If they went out and acquired him, I wouldn't hate that.
I don't want a guy that is that soft.
Yeah. It's very perimeter based for sure. But
and it's just so streaky. Obviously, this season highlights that more than maybe any of his others. But like,
it's pretty par for the course for his career, to be
right.
honest.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. And it seemed worse because it was at a 0 for so long.
Yeah.
But he went through very similar stretches here in Colorado. It just didn't feel as bad because he had scored a hat trick and then had 4 games where he scored 3 goals.
In San Jose, had a 30 or 40 game stretch where he didn't score a goal.
Yep.
And you're just like,
he just does.
How is that possible? When you're watching him in Colorado, you're like, how?
And ends up with 37 points at the end of the year, no matter what.
Yeah, and you're like, and he had his 2 highest goal scoring seasons were in Colorado, his highest shooting percentage. Like, what were the Avs doing with Jonas Donskoy to get that much more out of him than anywhere else has?
Right.
So it makes you like the fit would be obvious with Donnie, but
even
anyway,
with all that,
moving away.
he went through stretches even in Colorado where.
Where it's just you're getting nothing. Yeah. I think Donskoy is about $400K cheaper than Toffoli. Donskoy's 3.9.
Yeah,
I think Toffoli is 4.3, or it's somewhere close to that. If it's not 4.3, so a bit cheaper. But Toffoli also, he's been a pretty consistent 40 to 45 point guy when he plays a full season.
Yeah,
so he does provide a little bit more offensive punch, I think.
And like signed for 2 years at under, like it's just such a good, solid bargain deal there that he would have to totally hit the wall and be an absolute horrible
fall off a
fit
cliff. Yep.
For it to for you to feel like there's a negative, it's a negative value deal.
Yep.
Where you're just like, God, this has just not worked.
All right, moving on to number 6. I actually don't know who. Oh, it's Gio. Okay, Mark Giordano. The oldest old man defenseman that isn't named Zdeno Chara.
Didn't really know what to feel about Gio because this year it's been okay. In Seattle, the guy that he randomly turned into for a few years there in Calgary is not.
He's not that guy.
He was exposed in the expansion draft for a reason.
And because they valued the other guys over him.
So. Here is my
Sucks.
big one huge selling point for Gio in Colorado. The dude dominates defensively net front. It's something that the Avs lack very heavily.
It's not unimportant.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, you probably push, again, Byram. If Byram's in your lineup, Gio's probably more expensive than you want to go.
You're probably not
going there. If Byram
there,
isn't in your lineup, then Gio's exactly the kind of guy that you want to go and get. You will give a prominent role to. and you will put him in a lot of defensive heavy situations.
Yep.
And you have the flexibility to kind of do whatever, because he's played left and right in his career, where you can
make it work however
you
need it to.
whatever alignment you prefer. And like the difference between Sam Girard trying to play with Jack Johnson versus Mark Giordano, you're like, boy,
big.
you feel a lot better about giving G the kind of support we've talked about them providing him.
Big
feel
and little
a lot
G.
better about it with Giordano than you do with Jack Johnson or Eric Johnson.
Yeah, no, he just does become your guy that he eats a lot of the tough minutes. He kills penalties. He would have been on the ice for all 2 minutes of that last night against Tampa Bay.
Yep.
He does just give you a little bit of a different element at a level that the Avs just don't really have right now.
I think the hardest obstacle to this is Ron Francis. It's going to want too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and the problem for the Avs is I think he'll find a GM willing to pay it. I don't think it'll be Joe Sakic, but I think he'll find a GM willing to pay what he wants.
I think there's such a divergent split starting to appear in the upper echelon teams and the rest of the league that if he doesn't get it from one of those 5 to 7 teams that think they can really win a cup, I don't think he gets it. And then you have to say, do you just eat it? Because he ate it.
Yeah, he hasn't been
summer.
afraid to eat it in the past.
He ate
for
it
sure.
all summer, and look at the team that he built. Like,
Right.
Oops.
like
Giordano UFA?
yeah.
I could see a team like Minnesota being in on him.
I mean, sure. I'm saying Minnesota would be in that group of 7 that I'm talking about that says we're pretty serious about making this thing count now.
I think they're going to try because I think Bill Guerin knows what he's up against.
$15 million in dead
forward.
cap coming real quick.
Yeah, I think he also knows that he's got some fucking kids coming that can play. And he doesn't want to touch those guys. I mean, between Boldy, Rossi, and Caitlin Addison, I think he's got some dudes.
He's going to fucking need them.
Yeah. 100%, but I think he's got them. So,
All right.
you know.
So, Gio, look, are we entirely discounting the do it for the old guy storyline
Well,
here too?
I was going to say,
Okay.
I don't.
You already have an old guy you're trying to do it for in Eric Johnson.
He's not that old yet, though.
I mean, not like Gio is older, but
By a good bit.
I don't think that it's not a thing. Like, I don't think that would be something that wouldn't be at least like discussed amongst the team.
Sure.
But like, it's not. Everyone, references, Avs fans reference the Ray Bork thing. Oh, that could be their Ray Bork. Like, Ray Bork was a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all time, regardless of how that last season went. And that was a let's do this for one of the greatest of all time. And even that, I mean, you still had
not for
back-to-back years of a Western Conference Final heartbreak. Like, there were so many other things that went into that the Ray Bork thing was just kind of stacked on top. I don't doubt that Avs group would rally around, like, let's do this for Gio. Let's get him there. Let's blah blah blah.
Let's do this for one of the better defensemen in recent Calgary.
Right.
Woo! Yeah.
Woo! Yeah. But I had Sidney Crosby never won a Stanley Cup, that's the type of player that someone trades for in the last couple of years.
Who was the dude that Chicago gave the cup to?
Chemo Timonen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like Chemo Timonen. Like, good guy, likable guy, long career,
Right.
good player.
Who's the closest to being? Is it Jumbo? Probably is the closest to being that guy in the league right now.
Totally. I think Jumbo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say the big difference is Ray Bork was still
Good.
He had a 59-point season that year,
Right.
in Colorado, and Joe Thornton is like, well, he's gonna play 59 games.
Right. Like
He's
Ray
chilling
Bork
on their fourth line.
Ray
in
Bork
Florida.
could have come back in 2001, 2002,
and been a fine
and no one would have
player.
blinked at it.
Yeah, he was that good.
Right. And so again, I don't discount it 100%. But I just think, like I said, it would have to be like an Alex Ovechkin in 2 years, 3 years, had he never won the cup a few years ago.
Yeah.
That's the type of guy that you really do rally around the storyline.
Gio's not.
Sure.
So I don't think it's a major storyline. I think it's more of a
something that would be discussed internally.
He's a good player who's nearing the end of his career, and
it'd be awesome to see him get the cup.
Yeah, it'd be
like
cool.
that's
But it's
cool
not
story.
this
But
ridiculous moment. By
if they were to win it,
one of the better Calgary Flames defensemen in recent memory. Come on.
I don't think a Giordano 5 jersey is going up in the rafters if they make the deal and they win the cup.
Yeah. That's how good Ray Bourque was.
Yeah.
His time in Colorado was not very long, and they still were like, he was this impactful.
Don't get us started on this debate.
Do you not think he should have had his number retired?
Absolutely not.
Hell to the no.
Oh my gosh. You guys are crazy. You guys are out of your minds.
Let's go to a younger player here.
You guys are out of your minds.
At number 5, this is one that both Jesse and I are pretty high on.
Yep.
JT Miller.
Wasn't on my list at all.
Yeah.
So tells you kind of how I feel.
This is where, for me, this list really starts getting into you're like hard improving your team.
Agreed. If I didn't think it was going to take genuinely a king's ransom to get JT Miller out of Vancouver, he'd have been even higher on my list. But
Yeah.
I think he's going to be incredibly expensive to pry out of there.
Well, and especially because I guess I could pull up the standings and look, but I still think Vancouver is talking themselves into relevancy.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I
think Pacific Division say that there are two playoff. I think there are two clear playoff.
Vegas
teams.
for sure.
Vegas and Calgary.
Yeah.
And then that gives you one for sure playoff spot, and then you're hoping a wild card spot because one of those central teams is going to get one of the wild cards. So you're talking about two spots here. So you're fighting LA, Anaheim, Edmonton, San Jose, Vancouver are all fighting for two spots, realistically.
Not even mentioning
and Anaheim,
Seattle, like it.
Well, yeah, they're way out of it.
Seattle's
They're 14 points
to
behind
Arizona.
Vancouver.
I know. I just love the disrespect.
Fuck Seattle.
But like in Anaheim starting to slide, you know, they've hit,
finally cooled off.
They've hit the speed wobbles a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I think one for that. Two, I think this is a guy that Vancouver still would like to have in the fold going forward. And then 3, to your point, I think the price tag will be high on him, and this is a guy, I just said it about Mark Giordano, but like someone who's serious about a cup will pay the high price. And Joe Sakic has just shown over and over and over again, he's got a price that he's willing to pay, and if it's beyond that, he's not going to mess with it.
Well, and when you're talking about JT Miller, we're talking about the first guy on this list that I'm actually open to the idea of paying a certain price for.
Sure.
Where you're talking about a prospect you really like, a first-round pick, that kind of thing.
And part of this conversation is he does have another year on his deal.
Yeah.
So you're again in that conversation of like, maybe this makes Burakovsky more expendable.
One of the biggest selling points of JT Miller is the versatility, is that he's played all 3 forward positions extensively in the NHL. So having him next year and then maybe giving him an extension beyond that, it doesn't necessarily lock you into, well, he's going to play in this spot or that spot. He can move around for you and do a lot of different things. And that's having that sort of malleable skill set, I think, is a really important selling point in the JT Miller conversation. Because JT Miller, on his own, just as a player in one position, he's solid. But I don't know that he moves the needle very far for me over Tyler Toffoli. But when you add in the center versatility, I think it gets to be a different conversation.
Just take the eraser, rub out Comfer, write in Miller. Done.
And Riley, just so you know, I don't think Newhook or Byram are part of a single
off
conversation.
The table.
They're not
Newhook
going
and Byram
anywhere.
are off the table.
They're not going anywhere.
Yep.
Regardless of who we're talking about here, I don't think they're giving up.
I mean, I would trade Byram for Jack Hughes.
Yeah, sure. For elite talent, that young elite talent, basically.
I'd do it for Trevor Zegras. Let's go.
For Connor McDavid at 50% retained.
Sure.
Sure.
I'd make it work.
But no, this is definitely the first guy where it gets, like I said, you're making a clear, we're willing to give up because we think this makes us that much better.
The type of guys that when the trade happens, the media goes, oh, They're for real now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just what Colorado needed.
Yeah.
Highly versatile, highly skilled forward that can fit anywhere into a top 9 and make all of those different levels of better. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, go get yourself a Breck Brew. Got a Broncos country right here, living the dream. You can get 8 different kinds on tap down at the bar or find them at your local liquor store. Look, drink the Avalanche while you're watching an Avalanche game. It's a super easy deal.
You should just do it. Drink the Avalanche while you watch the Avalanche.
It just makes sense. They also have the 2 for a brew deal. Allie's pointing at me. I don't know why.
My brother just asked me what my favorite IPA at Breck Brew is, so I thought I would ask you guys.
I hate IPAs, so.
What's an IPA?
I hate IPAs, but their juicy drop one. No, that's where I'm going with this. I hate IPAs, but
The juice drop?
the juice drop mango.
It's drinkable for
pineapple.
IPA
I had
haters,
2 of
yeah.
them the other night. As someone who doesn't like IPAs, I thought they were really good.
I'm a simple human, and I drink Avalanche during the Avalanche games. I'm a creature of habit. They're super good. When you get one during an Avs game or before an Avs game, keep your receipt. Go on over to Breck Brew. If they score 2 in the first period, send Breck Brew a picture of the receipt. They'll pay for your first beer. On them. They're literally giving you free beer when the Avs play well in the first period. So go get yourself some Breck Brew. Use the Breck Beer Locator online to find it at a local liquor store near you. Then, if you're looking for free entertainment in the Denver area,
Where's this going?
I know. I was like, oh God.
well, you could go to the Diamond Club. It's not free. What you can do is go to the American
Also not called
Raptors.
the Diamond Club.
I've never
way
been.
classier than that.
I've never been.
It's
Go
Club Diamond, obviously.
Go to American
cabaret.
Raptors instead. Don't go see strippers. Go see rugby. All right? One of these things is more entertaining than the other.
Look, it doesn't really matter. You
Yes.
plenty of friction either choice.
All right, look.
Oh my God, AJ. Where's the freaking rubber thing?
AJ's about to get stuff thrown at him right here.
What is this?
American Raptors, completely free to go to any game you want. They are also the home, Infinity Park of Glendale, of the men's and women's 15 teams for Team USA. So it's literally the best rugby in the country. You can get in for free. If you're into the rugby, you can watch for free on their website. You can also follow Colton Strickler, the DNVR rugby account on Twitter. He does ridiculously good podcasts. I say it every time, but I am so insanely jealous of the access that he gets. He literally talks to the best rugby players of all time, like every week. He's just like, "What's up? Let's talk for 45 minutes about how dope rugby is." He also has 101 pods about rugby. If you're new to the sport, he'll teach you the ins and outs of the game, and he'll look way better than AJ Hafley does right now.
I think he pulls a bucket hat off phenomenally.
I don't have a Nerf gun yet, guys. Soon.
Honestly, just keep throwing shit at us. We'll just keep putting it on.
I love the hat. It looks great.
I think it looks great.
Yeah,
It
You should
doesn't
wear
make
more
the
bucket
weather
hats.
outside.
got it.
It's definitely a summer hat.
Keeps the
for
sun out
sure.
of your eyes
Yeah.
from every angle.
All
I
right.
like that. Fuck the sun.
Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's get into the top half of our list here. Number 4, going back to the defensive well with Calvin DeHaan.
I know at some point Cole Hamilton's going to watch this show and he's going to roll his eyes so hard at that.
At the hat or Calvin DeHaan?
Calvin DeHaan.
What's not to love?
This is what I've been saying for years.
His last name starts with 2 lowercase letters. How could you not love that?
Years I've been trying to push the Calvin DeHaan thing.
I'm here for it. Look, I think he is a lefty, but he does play plenty of the right side, or has in his career, so he can be versatile for you in that way. He provides, if you look at his underlyings this year on a Chicago team that is bad,
Exact profile of what you want for a guy that helps you close games.
he's genuine. Again, if the Avs are without Byram, he is a perfect number 4.
Yeah.
A perfect number 4 defenseman.
Blocks a lot of shots, has a physical element to his game, has good size, extensive PK experience. That's a dude that is a drag and drop into your lineup.
Yep. It feels almost too easy. It almost makes too much sense. Obviously, Chicago's going to be on the selling side of stuff.
The big question is the extensive injury history.
Yep.
And I truly don't know how he would do in a really up-tempo.
Can he keep up? Yeah.
They want him. Look at how Colorado's defense attacks when they're on offense, and I don't know that Calvin DeHaan has that in the bag.
You spelled it wrong.
Is it not how it's on there?
2 A's.
And it's technically a lowercase d as well.
It technically correct.
Uppercase
capital
H,
H.
lowercase d e. Well, I know. That's why we're commenting on it.
Regardless of how you spell his name.
And a pending UFA, like, and a guy that you would just say, hey, probably
not an
is
astronomical price.
Well,
yeah.
and probably realistically probably is not coming back.
Sure, it's a one and done thing.
But is kind of your answer to David Savard for what Tampa did last year. Much of the same attributes, but does not have any of the offensive profile or history to justify a first round pick. No.
Yeah, and the problem with the wish list is a lot of the wish list is like, this would be great before we talk about the price that it's actually going to cost.
Yeah, and DeHaan is a really reasonable response, and probably the only defenseman of the ones that we've talked about here, with the Geos, and look, he's not on this list yet, but John Klingberg is coming.
Yeah.
Of those guys, DeHaan is the one where you say Bowen Byram doesn't really matter in this picture.
He'd be great as your number 5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you have Calvin DeHaan and Eric Johnson as your bottom pairing,
you love that.
If you have Calvin DeHaan and Jack Johnson as your bottom pairing,
you love that.
Like you're feeling a whole lot better. If you really want to get crazy, you go Calvin DeHaan and Justin Barron as your bottom pairing.
The Black Ace, do it.
I'm saying. And then if there's no Byram, then Calvin DeHaan next to Sam Girard. You're talking about raising the floor here, limiting some of the damage that you can do, but at what should be a pretty reasonable cost.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
The price for Calvin DeHaan should not be exorbitant.
You try to sneak in with like a. If you could find a way to get him for less than a first, I think it would be something I'd be all over for sure. Even if you're talking about like a solid grade prospect, it'd be something I'd have to seriously consider. But in any case, AJ spoiled our number 3 as we're sticking with the defenseman. It is John Klingberg. I wasn't as interested in Klingberg.
As the dissenter, because Jesse and I each had John Klingberg at 3.
Yeah.
I want to know where the dissenting opinion is, under the asterisk that I have John Klingberg at 3
because of Byram.
Because Byram is not in the lineup.
And
if Byram comes back, John Klingberg probably isn't even on my list anymore.
And I agree there. If Byram's healthy, I don't see how Klingberg fits at all. Full stop.
Dylan Securta sent back down to the Eagles. Good sign for McKinnon coming back Sunday. Side note.
As expected, McKinnon
also,
should
the
be back Sunday.
Eagles play tonight, so that was happening no matter what. Poor
Either
guy. He has to play every day.
Well, and then the Eagles play tomorrow too.
Yeah.
That dude's about to
And
play
then he's
3
gonna
games
play
in
on
a row.
Sunday
Well, I don't think he will.
when the Avs recall him because something happens with McKinnon.
Darren Helm goes out again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're just like, every day.
Again.
Every day. Do you want that NHL paycheck?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to derail. Just wanted to make sure I got the update in.
I really struggle to see Klingberg's fit in this team.
Why?
Yeah, I was going to say.
With what you have.
State your case.
With what you have in Makar, Taves, and Girard, I really think you want to round out that number 4 with a better, well-rounded defenseman on the defensive side. Yes, I understand Klingberg can move pucks well, and that works great in the Avs system, but I don't think he
So you wouldn't want Byram on that second pairing?
No, I do want Byram on the second pairing. I think his defense is fucking elite. This is why I had Gio over Klingberg, because you drop in Gio, he's a monster in front of his own net. He makes it hard for other teams. He makes them work in the offensive zone to get stuff done, and Gio still has enough puck moving ability to get it out. Whereas Klingberg, yes, he's going to provide you a ton of offense, but he's super high event defensively, and it's going to create a lot of chaos. I think it gets a little bit hard to make the balance work there, because you really do want to keep Taves with Makar as much as possible, I think.
Yeah, and I think that putting Klingberg next to Girard is fine.
I don't love it. I don't love it.
Klingberg is not the player that he was a couple of years ago. And I don't really care about the offense, to be honest with you. Like, that'll come just naturally. And he'd be a very good natural fit into how Colorado wants their D to activate.
Yeah.
And he has the puck skill to fit right
again,
into
I think
all of that.
that side will be fine.
And that's great. But I think that he's also been playing in a heavily defensive system for the last few years and hasn't looked out of place. He hasn't collapsed. He hasn't folded like the French. He's just fine. He's been fine.
I think
and
you're
I think,
overrating his defense.
I'm not of the opinion that John Klingberg is a very good defender, but I think that he's a good enough player in his own zone, and his puck moving complements Sam Girard's well enough that if he's not getting put next to Sam Girard, I don't have an interest in it.
I agree.
Which is why I'm saying if Bowen Byram is back in the lineup, I don't really have Klingberg on my list at all.
He doesn't make sense as a bottom pairing guy at all. I don't
as a guy, I'm trusting I am trusting everything about John Klingberg more than Eric Johnson or Jack Johnson or Ryan Murray or Curtis McDermott or Jacob McDonald or Justin Barron. Any of those guys, I trust John Klingberg to do the two-way job at a higher level, at a better level, and he has begged Dallas
to get the F out of there.
to get rid of him. He does not want to be there, and I think you're going to get a really, really motivated, pissed off player. And I really like picking up a guy who's got a big chip on his shoulder
to prove.
And really wants to
has a little bit of fire there.
Really wants to prove a point to a city that he feels has done him dirty.
I just think that his stylistic play fits too well within what the Avs do to not be looking. Again, all of this is Bowen Byram is a linchpin on this player almost completely. If you feel any level of real confidence, if you're Joe Sakic, that Bowen Byram will be back, then I'm with you. I don't really know if he falls anywhere on my list. But
my interest is gone.
But this is basically,
because I'm not paying the price for him to be a third
John
pairing.
Klingberg to me is basically the Bowen Byram Band-Aid to get you to next season while staying high level,
I guess,
puck moving, good skater.
Fits your identity.
I guess part of my concern there is it feels to me like they're maybe getting a little bit too samey on the defensive side with their identity. If you add another guy like that into your
and I like that. I mean, this is not Tyson Barrie here. This is not
it's
a
not
one-way
full
player
YOLO send
who
for sure.
Collapses in his own zone here and can't play any defense. This is a guy that's been playing in a defense-heavy system for the last several years.
Well, and again, and
I think that Colorado frees him up from that, but he's going to be comfortable enough in his own zone that having puck-moving skill around him to the level of a Sam Girard is just going to unlock
some of the talent to shine through.
Some of the things that I think we haven't gotten to see in him really excel in Dallas because they've been asking him to kind of play not to his preferred style.
And in terms of the two samey, I get what you're getting at there, but that is so much of what we talked about early this season when Byram really was going, is that this top four, they're so consistent. You know what you're getting, and they complement the offense so well that I still think that bottom pairing, the Johnson and Johnson pairing, whatever, you have enough diversity, you have enough shutdown, you have the ability in Cale Makar and Devon Taves. Those aren't just strictly offensive players.
For sure.
I just think that, again, if you feel like you're probably going to be without Byram, I think this is a phenomenal.
Well, if you get to the deadline and you don't have Byram, this is the last chance that you have to do something about it.
I agree. Yep.
And that's where I think Klingberg is the interest. And if you do have Byram, then you don't bother with John Klingberg.
Right. That's where you do go filling around with some of these other.
Yeah, where you do that's where Luke Schenn and Calvin Haan become They just pump them up like 2 spots
right.
each.
Right.
You're min-maxing a little bit more at that point when Byron's back.
Yeah, definitely. That's more about raising the floor.
Yep.
John Klingberg is about keeping your ceiling where you want it on that second pairing,
Yeah.
and not
That's
the
a great way
floor.
of putting
And
it.
for the record, I did have Klingberg on my list, just a little bit lower, down at 9.
You're right.
believe, but
I lied.
not that I'm a total non-believer. I just don't believe in him as much as you guys do. But
He's certainly not the player, and this is an important acknowledgement that he's not the guy he was a few years ago.
for sure.
There have been some steps back there in his game.
All right.
So it's not without concern that I'm doing it. I'm just believing. I think whoever frees him from Dallas is
gonna
going
benefit,
to get
yeah.
is going to get a really, really motivated John Klingberg for a couple of months, and that's and playing for a big contract. He's been on a really good deal
Yeah, I was
for
going to
his
say
entire career.
his money is easy to fit.
I think that's a there's money and disrespect by the Stars have pushed him in a direction where I'm like, whoever gets that dude is going to get the best version we've seen in a long time of him.
Chat is desperately hungry to talk about our number 2 guy on the list.
Are they over? Are they're over Tomas Hertl?
Yeah, Hurdle's so 10 minutes ago.
What I think is amazing about this, none of us had Hertl on the top 10.
Not one of us.
And I'm curious about this reasoning because I have my feelings about why, and I'm curious why he's not on either of yours.
He could have snuck into the bottom of my list, but especially the last couple of days, it sounds like the Sharks are trying really hard to keep him.
That's mine.
Okay.
I
So we're all in agreement that we think he's going to stay.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even necessarily that I think he'll ultimately end up staying, but I just think that he's having of all, and the next guy on our list is another one who's having a really good year. I just think that you'd be buying really high, and I think San Jose wants to keep him. So I think the cost to pry him out of there right now is just going to be
San Jose
high.
really just can't rebuild. They have too much money
they're
tied up in
stuck
guys
with
already.
Carlson,
that they
Burns,
just kind of
yeah.
have to just keep going in this era.
Yep.
And I guess magically fucking hope that they get really lucky. I don't really understand what
Pull the
plan is.
Evander Kane magic trick of getting out of contracts a couple more times. Like,
can they fake some vaccination cards for Brent Burns and company? Like
Right.
what can they do here to get out of those deals? Because they don't have a direction while that's all going on.
Yep.
And Doug Wilson's the kind of guy who's been really, really loyal to the guys who signed long term and says, I don't want to rebuild. You guys did not sign up with me for that process.
Yep.
You gave a long commitment to have your family here so that you guys could compete for something, and I want to make sure the second half of your careers matter. And fair enough, you got to love a GM that has that kind of respect as a former player, obviously. Like you feel like there's a certain respect there. That's all good and well, but a weird direction for the franchise because they're just sort of stuck kind of having to keep guys like Hertl and not cashing in on rebuild opportunities.
Yeah, so that was the only reason why he wasn't. If you're purely just talking like, if you're not talking about acquisition costs or salary or anything, he 100% would have been on my list.
Yep.
But
if I was not 100,000% convinced that San Jose was going to make
I think they're
every
going all
single
in to keep him.
effort to
Yeah.
keep him, and eventually he's just going to be like, all right, that's too much money. I have to say yes to this.
right.
all right, we got a little sidetracked there. Our number 2 guy, Joseph James Pavelski. He's a hockey player.
Is that what you were just looking up? Was his full name?
His middle name? Yeah, I wasn't sure what. If it was James, by the way.
Little Captain America up in here.
Little Captain America. I actually had him at 1 over Claude Giroux. I know both of you had Giroux at 1. I think Pavelski is the dream fit for this hockey team.
So why I've got Pavelski at 2, he's 37 already, and
Definitely getting up there.
I think that it's going to be harder to bring him back in the offseason than it would be to bring Giroux back, because I think Giroux only waives for a team that he thinks he has a good chance to stick with.
I went into this thinking Pavelski is a rental, full stop.
And that's why I have Pavelski there. I also because their selling points are almost identical.
Right.
They're right-handed. They give you they can win a lot of faceoffs for you. They open up tons of options for you power play wise. They do it in very different ways. You want Claude Giroux taking one-timers, you want Joe Pavelski tipping them in.
net.
So you'd love to just have them both. But like you really the selling points are almost identical here. It's like, which one do you think is a better fit? Which one do you think can slide into the lineup and do whatever? Like, it's really all very samey between these two.
Agreed.
It's just the age. Otherwise, I don't know how you would really strongly prefer one over the other.
Yeah, razor thin margins.
Like,
for
Pavelski's
sure.
playoff career has been a little more prolific than Giroux's, but Pavelski's also never been the number one guy
Right.
on a playoff contender the way that Giroux has been his
Yeah.
whole career.
For me, I think I just prefer Pavelski stylistically a smidge better with the net front stuff. I think he would fit in great on a second
Well,
line.
when you
but-
talk about next to on a line with
Berkey and
Burakovsky
Kadri going bombs
Kadri,
away with him in
right,
front.
and shooting
Yeah.
constantly and really, like, you talk about scoring in the postseason.
Yep. You get some of those dirty goals
Right,
that
like those
Pavelski
tipped
grinds
pucks.
out there.
Those
Yep.
tipped pucks from Pavelski eliminated Colorado twice.
Yep.
And just, you said there anything about Landy's very good in front of the net himself. Now you're running PP1 with Gabe Landeskog in front of the net and PP2 with
Yeah.
Joe Pavelski in front of the net.
Lethal.
Yeah, he just, like Giroux, he just makes it a really tough matchup. It really struggle if you're another team playing against the Avs in the playoffs to match
Yeah.
top six.
Well, he's such a miserable son of a
Yeah,
bitch.
nobody
to play
wants to
against.
play against that dude.
Like, Pavelski sucks to play against in a way that I don't think Giroux does. But Giroux, I think, has a higher natural
Talent
skill level.
Yeah.
So again,
more
you're,
tantalizing.
you're talking
Yeah.
about like different pathways to success, but similar levels. Now, Pavelski's having a crazy ass year, like this really
As a
insane
37-year-old.
percentage-driven monstrosity of a season, and Giroux's having a good year on a team that has completely fallen apart.
Right. Well, and then you do have to anecdotally make the joke.
Yeah, here we go.
It's a joke, but it's also like a little bit of a real thing. I mean, Joe Pavelski has just eaten the
Murdered
Avs
this hockey
alive
team.
in his career.
Murdered
And this
it.
is the other factor here is Philadelphia doesn't care about
Yeah.
sending Claude Giroux
Dallas
to
is
Colorado.
in
Right.
division. Yeah.
Dallas doesn't. Dallas.
They're going to have to be out of it for them to move a guy like this to Colorado.
Exactly. And Dallas wants to keep Joe Pavelski for a first-round series against
Yeah,
Colorado.
there's a
If
very
they
real
sneak in,
possibility that Dallas, Colorado
probably-
is the round one series.
If Dallas
yeah.
makes the postseason, it's likely as the last seed out west, and that puts them in position to have the Avs. And so
Yeah.
you're saying you want to keep him for that. You don't want to give up whatever and then have that guy play against you.
Because, like I said, it's funny to laugh and joke about that stuff, but I don't have it in front of me, but I wouldn't want to look at his career totals against the Avs. I mean, he just...
And Philadelphia is saying we'd prefer to send you out to Colorado and not have you
waste away.
Right.
in like Washington or something,
Yeah.
you know, like winning a Stanley Cup down the road for an Eastern Conference team that we've been trying to beat for 10 years.
For years.
And
That
whereas you send him out west is what I'm saying. Like they want to get him out of the East.
Yeah.
Send him out
Not
west.
their problem
it's what the
anymore,
Avs
yeah.
attempted to do with Matt Duchene, Ryan O'Reilly, and Tyson
him-
Barrie.
Give
And
him
they-
the Fievel treatment.
They
He's
all
gotta
came
go
back.
west.
and there was a minute there when I thought they were all going to end up in division. And Tyson Barrie decided to stay in Edmonton.
Who was it that got it was Hoffman, right? That got immediately flipped.
by
San Jose.
Yeah.
Back to Florida.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Ottawa refused to trade to the East. Yeah.
And weren't they pretty pissed about that?
yeah, they were
Well,
not.
San Jose was mad because of what happened with Martin Jones. Or LA was mad because they
Yeah.
traded Martin Jones to Boston.
Yeah.
And Boston goes, LOL, and traded him to San Jose.
Jose.
And LA worked really hard to keep
not
him
to
from...
do that. Yeah.
Because that
being
was at the
in-
time. You remember the Sharks didn't have a goalie, and Martin Jones was the next big
He
thing.
was actually good then.
yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. We haven't really talked about the Giroux side as much. He's obviously our number one. He headlined the title. You should know this if you read the title.
People thought Fleury was number one.
Okay.
Okay, well, those people were lying to themselves.
I was very surprised by the amount of people saying Fleury number one.
Who's Ron Weasley in this? Because the fact that they know the nickname Turd Stick means nothing for you guys. I know exactly who he's talking about. And yes, I did. Joy, that's like my best friend. AJ's met Joy. You met Jonathan.
Yeah.
I'd love to know who that actually is.
Yeah, this is someone from your hockey team. It would be my guess.
Yeah. And the not a lot of people call him Turd Stick. So, yeah.
We'll see.
For the record, Joe Pavelski, 37 points in 47 games against the Avs.
Not unreal good, but
I'd be willing to bet if you look at the playoffs, it's probably a little
like
different.
dirty good. Yeah.
who is this person? Turd Stick is actually one of the people I was talking to you guys about earlier about how insanely skilled he was, but
Yeah.
you get him in national tournaments and
Yeah.
stuff. He just gets.
How do you get the nickname Turd Stick?
It sounds a lot like his last name. Yeah, there's a few for him that aren't.
Did you ever read that Reddit thread on Poop Knife?
I did. Yeah.
Some stories you just don't want to know, but
Better off not knowing.
Oh, I'd love to know who that is.
anyway.
Claude Giroux, obviously the talent level is there. Obviously, Philadelphia has all the reason in the world to sell him, assuming he wants to waive. We've been talking about him for a week or two now. Obviously, all the All-Star stuff where he wanted nothing to do with the trade conversations. But it's... Pavelski and Giroux are the type of talents
These are my
that...
people. Know the Poop Knife story.
Pavelski and
It's a
Giroux
classic.
are the type of talents that if you're not at least inquiring about, you're simply just not doing your job correctly.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
that's one where you're like, dude, the 2023 first, totally.
Yep.
And the reason why I'm more comfortable with Giroux is, again, I think that if you
The
get
opportunity
Giroux,
for future.
you want to give him the Joe Pavelski's contract.
Well, and
You give him the 3x7 and keep him and just hope that it goes as well as Pavelski's deal did.
And Claude Giroux, I laugh going through Twitter. You see all these people. I don't want Giroux. He's not worth Martin Kaut and a first. Like, do you
Yes, he
not
is.
know who Claude Giroux is? Like, this is a top tier.
Yeah, like
elite.
Justin Barron is on the table for me, and
Yeah.
that's a deep cut.
Right.
But also knowing that like it's gonna you gotta give to get, and Claude
Right.
Giroux could be
the difference between a cup and not,
could be
genuinely.
nasty.
Right. I mean, this is
This is not min maxing. This is max maxing.
right. I mean, this gives
is
you.
straight up gear upgrading. Like this is different level.
I think Mikko is really the better comparison, but just forget that for a second. This really does kind of give you that like really elite, not quite to the same level of like Crosby Malkin, but like it gives you your huge 1-2 punch. McKinnon, cool. Wow, he shut that line down. Here comes Claude Giroux over the wall. It's just like he is that level.
Well, he's going
of-
to play next to Nazem Kadri,
Yeah.
Right.
who is in the top 5 in the NHL in scoring, where you're just like, do you need this guy?
right.
No.
But how much better, how much harder are you to beat having him around?
Well, and we talk about Joe Pavelski being tough to play against and maybe a little bit tougher than Giroux, but I mean, this is also still, has a little bit of that like old school Philly nasty to kind of play against. You know, he's got that, the famous shift a few years ago in the playoffs against Pittsburgh where he goes out and just lays
Murks
3 dudes out,
everybody, yeah.
including
Dude.
Sidney Crosby, picks
a
the puck up and just
tryhard.
hammers one home. Like he's an elite talent. He's the best player available
Like,
at this trade deadline.
I know he's not this guy anymore, but he's like 2 years removed from a 100-point season.
Right.
So, like, let's remember
and-
that Claude Giroux is and he's still, like, his numbers aren't like, oh my God, right? But
Not
you're also
eye-popping,
talking about a team that has completely collapsed this year.
it's a disaster.
It's similar to like the 48-point year when you looked back at that after the year was
Yeah.
done. You're like, Nathan McKinnon had a pretty good year, all things considered.
Yeah, you're like Mikko Rantanen had a 20-goal season.
Right,
like
right.
there are some things that but you're also looking at those names and you're like, how did a team with this much talent get this bad?
Right.
And sometimes it just spirals on you. And that's what we're seeing in Philly this year is that I truly don't think that they're that bad.
I don't think so.
I think
either.
things have just gotten out of hand.
It's just everything's gone wrong.
and the mountain the mountain's on top of them now.
Yeah,
and you're
right.
just like, okay. Well, I guess we just wait till next year to push this reset button. But you do have to make a decision, you know. And Giroux is interesting because he's got the 1,000 games played coming up. That would be the March 17th game
Yep.
for the Flyers would be that 1,000th game
1000.
right before the deadline.
And then
So
they
you
flip him
really,
the
really
day
want to see
after
him
that,
get to
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So this is probably not one that you're going to see them make.
Not within the next couple weeks.
Yeah, that would have to be probably on deadline itself, maybe the day before.
Yep.
And then also, I think Philly's in Colorado that week.
A little bit of a.
So it would be fun to be like,
just stay.
hi, fellas.
Just stay in Colorado. It's fine.
Oh yeah, someone asked what time the trade deadline is.
It's
All
noon
day,
Eastern.
March 21st.
Yeah.
We'll be live all day.
Yeah.
We'll be live all day for the deadline. Don't worry about it.
Is it? No, it's not noon Eastern. There's no way. 2 Eastern, 3 Eastern. It ends at either noon or 1 here locally.
Yeah, I think it's usually noon Pacific.
But again, the other thing to always keep in mind is you have to be in line with the National Hockey League trade registry by that time.
Yep.
So those deals
Trades come in 2 hours after.
Yeah, deals will always trickle in for the hours after, but
3 p.m. Eastern. So 1 p.m.
So 1 p.m. here.
Yep.
Okay, yep.
Keep in mind that is also trade deadline day is a game day. The Edmonton Oilers are in Denver that
It's going to be a busy day.
7:30 that night. So expect
morning skate to either be canceled or for it to be massive.
Yeah.
Did Tyson Jost just leave 10 minutes early? What's going on here?
I was gonna say we will be live all day, but I will be at the arena and then coming over here
I will be
after.
live all day, and these guys will pop in and out as needed.
Yeah. Don't see JT Comfer out here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
On the stream real quick. JT Cover is not here.
Yeah.
Remember, the Avs did this when Florida was in town.
Yeah.
They just had Derek Brassard come across the hallway.
Philly Philly will absolutely be retaining.
They have to.
They would have to.
Philly
to make
will
it work,
100%.
And it's
100%. Their incentive to retain is
Do you want to give up Claude Giroux for nothing?
Yeah. Are you cool
you
with letting
watch
him
leave in free agency?
Yeah. Are you willing to let him walk for nothing to save your pride, or do you want to get something for it? So
double hat.
they have massive incentive to retain. I actually think that looks pretty good.
I'm ready for the snow, y'all.
They absolutely have
That's what I
incentive.
said when I moved here from Texas.
Ready for the snow, y'all. They have incentive to retain, and the more they retain, the more they'll get.
There's
in
no
return.
reason for them not to.
Yeah,
certainly.
they retain the max amount. They will absolutely maximize what they are going to get in return. And when you're talking about trading a player of that caliber, you're trying to get as much in return as you can, especially when you're talking about your retaining salary for 3 months. So they will be retaining.
The one other thing about Giroux and Pavelski I think that we haven't really touched on is the domino effect of you put them into your top six, and all of a sudden you're talking about a third line that either has Nichushkin, or if you want to put Nichushkin on the right of the second line, Burakovsky. We've talked a lot this year about, hey, give Alex Newhook a little bit more talent. Let's see what that kid can do.
Without incentive, they have no incentive to retain. It's like, well, yeah.
But their incentive is a better price and literally no downside to them retaining other than actual dollars. Right. So,
sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. Who is Lil B?
No one knows anything yet. Stop.
Okay. Anyway,
Krause was on my list. So
when you have a player of that caliber, if you can acquire that, it doesn't just make the direct players that they play with better. It makes your entire lineup that much better. And it's kind of a big deal when you're trying to win a Stanley Cup.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Does Lil Burn have a SoundCloud?
Oh my!
Did you hear us talking about it before? I loved Lil Burn. I don't know why he hasn't been at every game since.
Yeah, he's so cute.
He's incredibly cute.
Gonna do a crossover with Lil Bow Wow. Is that the future of the rap game?
Lil Burn.
Sure.
Is Lil Burn in the doghouse?
Look at him. Chat. Hold on. There you go.
Yep.
The flag. It was the flag waving, and then the fist bumps coming in.
Were super cute. Yeah.
Just because that flag was the pole was short and still way too
the flag
fucking
was
big.
Bigger than he was.
Yeah. No, I loved Lil Burn. Go ahead and leave that up there for the rest of the show. I think we're almost done.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up here.
Oh, dude,
totally.
Megan and I were talking about Gritty last night, and I'd vote for him for president.
Absolutely. Sold. He should take over for Gary Bettman when Gary Bettman retires. He should run the NHL. All chaos.
What do you think Gritty's voice sounds like?
Doesn't. That's part of what makes him so insane. Is he doesn't have one. It's just that blank stare. non-blinking
Is
stare.
it like the extreme? Is it like Gilbert Gottfried's voice?
No,
Or is it like?
I think the no voice is what adds to the mystery.
there's only two correct answers. One, Mark Wahlberg. Two,
what?
yep.
Why?
From Philly, I'm from Boston.
That's part of the madness of Gritty. Okay, he has a Boston accent in
random
Philly.
Fucking name to
Two,
pull out of the hat.
The other one is way worse. The other option is a kawaii anime girl. So
What?
those are the only two things that are possibly fit Gritty because it's absolute nonsense either way.
Oscar the Grouch.
That's too on brand. Gritty's voice would have to be something crazy. That's what I'm saying.
We're very
I've left the panel speechless, chat.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap up the show now. Any final thoughts on the Avs trade deadline?
I
wish list
honestly
here?
can't formulate a thought after everything you just said. So
The only thing running through my head is what the fuck?
yeah.
All right. Just imagine.
Of all celebrities for you to name, Mark Wahlberg was way down on that list.
Imagine Gritty sitting in the penalty box going, ooh woo. Just imagine that.
Why is the commissioner of the NHL in the penalty box? What's happening in this world?
Lost Ark is dope. Having a ton of fun.
It's been fun, yeah.
PHNX Coyotes, they had Jimmy Eat World on there, one of the main characters.
They had the drummer.
That's so cool.
Why don't you book drummers for us, Allie?
True.
That ain't my job.
Where's our interview with Blink
what the
182?
Yeah, it's no joke.
I'll get a little burn on.
Anyway,
Please!
since
Or
I've
Gritty. Tap into your Philly connections. Get Gritty on the show.
since I have now taken the podcast entirely off the rails.
1 minute and 1 hour and 20 seconds.
Oh, one last quick question here. Rachel Ridgelinski put out a thing: ketchup or mustard on a corn dog?
Corn dogs are gross, so
On
neither.
a corn dog.
Anything that involves mustard fucking sucks.
Wrong.
So I'm with you though on corn dogs.
Yeah, they're not great. Not great.
Okay,
Oh, but did you forget that mustard?
Do you
fucking
have
sucks?
an answer to this?
I don't have a preference.
I don't have a
Plain.
either.
Cop out.
I would need a
Imagine
sponsor.
that. Person who likes cheese pizza wants it plain.
Get out of here with
I don't
this.
put anything on my hot dog either.
What? Okay.
That's what you get from Mark Wahlberg.
Plain hot dogs. Did you say plain hot dogs? Dude, a plain hot dog is better than anything you can put with condiments on it.
What the?
How
How many times have we asked you for your
Anything.
bad food takes, and y'all are out here eating plain ass hot dogs?
It's not a bad food take.
That's a
You're
terrible
outnumbered on
food
this
take.
set, bruh. Sounds like you've got the bad take.
Not outnumbered on this.
I said on the set. I said on the set. Yeah.
Ridiculousness.
Quiet offset. I said on the set.
Okay. Before I dig a hole any deeper for myself, I'm going to wrap this show up. Thank you, chat, for hanging out with us. This was a fun one. Hope y'all enjoyed. We are back on Sunday, pregame, postgame, the whole 9 for the game against Dallas. So please join us for that. It is an afternoon game. Game starts at noon, actually, I think.
Yeah, so we will be on our post game at
11:30 a.m.
Mimosas and corn dogs.
Dude.
That's what
Thank
we.
you.
Oh, did he say postgame?
No, the post game will be the same as the pregame.
We'll have that many mimosas that it's just the pre and post game show.
One long show. It'll be fine. All right. We're outie. Thank you, chat. We'll talk to you Sunday.